fine with pieces you've been learning for a while, but when it comes to something new, you have a mini panic attack. Does that sound about right? By the end of this video, you'll have a simple process to make learning new music and sight reading so much simpler and less terrifying. I'll also show you how you can access simple sight reading exercises so that you can practice these steps every day and transform sight reading into something you actually enjoy. When I was a child going through my music exams, my violin exams, I will not lie that the sight reading aspect that we had to do at the end was almost always one of the most terrifying parts for me. I was always just terrified that, I don't know, I was just sweating. I didn't know how to do it. I felt like I was just going to make so many mistakes. So when I started teaching, I kind of made sure that okay, this is kind of a thing that still scares me. And I have to make sure that I don't pass that fear on to my students. And so I came up with strategies to actually make it simpler. So some of these things, obviously I was taught. So always look at the key signature and the time signature. But I think all I remember, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe we do forget things that we learned as children, but I just remember hearing those, and that's all the strategy that I remember receiving for sight reading. So I'm going to talk you through the 7 steps that I teach all of my students. Trust me, it simplifies the process so much. So grab a pen and paper, write these down so that you can make notes, and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to look at this top example up here. So the first thing we want to make sure we do is check the key signature. So that's fairly straightforward, and if you've been taught sight reading before, you would have heard that. If you don't know what the key is, so I can look at this and I can say, all right, we're in D major, because I can look at other information. If you don't know if it's D major or what major or minor key it is, that's not the most important thing, and don't stress over that when you're sight reading, because if you don't know, as the thing that you do need to know is you need to make sure that you know how to play what these 2 sharps are, F sharp and C sharp, and you want to know how to find those notes on your violin. So that's more important than knowing the name of the actual key. The next thing is we need to look at the time signature. Again, like these 2 things, I was definitely told as strategy for when I was doing sight reading as a kid. But that alone, isn't really enough. So, but you do definitely need to know. So this time signature is actually called cut common time. If you don't know that time signature, like if you're earlier in your playing, so this is like a grade 4 example, but if you're earlier, you might not have something like that anyway, but basically it means 2 minims in each bar, or we can still break that down to 4/4. So we can still count that as 1, 2, 3 and 4, which is going to be easier for you to think in that way when you're sight reading through it. So the next really important thing that I get my students to do is I tell them to have a look along and find the lowest note in the whole piece. So we have a look, and we down here. And so this is more, I would do this more for beginners. I still probably would do it at this level, definitely. But it's definitely helpful when you're a complete beginner and you're still getting used to reading, full stop. So our lowest note is down here, which is our 3rd finger C sharp on the G string. We know that we need to play as low as the G string, and then I would tell them to look for the highest note, which if we look through, we can see is up here. And in this case, so you wouldn't have this in an earlier grade sight reading, but this is beyond 1st position. So that tells you that you need to move positions. And in this particular book, in other books, they won't actually have fingering, but they do actually have a 2nd finger here, which tells you that you need to shift up to 3rd position. But sometimes you won't see that, and you have to just know, okay, I'm going to have to move up to 3rd position. So again, I'm giving you an example of an actual sight reading exercise, but you're going to apply the same principles when you learn a new piece. And also, if it's something that you're learning yourself, don't try and eat the whole cake at once. Do it line by line, or just in small chunks. The next thing that we're going to make sure we look for is, we've looked at our time signature, but we also want to look at the different types of beats and rhythms that we've got. So we've got TTs, quavers, we've got tickers, semiquavers, we've got crotchets, we've got a minim down here, This is a dotted crotchet and a quaver. Okay, so we know all the different types of beats. So a lot of those are going to be fairly straightforward. T, T, ticka, ticka, ta, ta. This one is maybe a little bit more funky, and we need to have a little bit of a think about that one. So tum, ti, 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 ta. So if you can sort of get that, you need to think a little bit harder when you get to that point, that's good. But otherwise you've got a lot of, and this is another step, is that we've got repetitions and patterns. So you can see the same, it's not exactly the same always, but similar. So we've got ti, ti, ticka, ticka, ta, ta, here, 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 and here. This one is a little bit turned around, but it's just that these two are turned around. So we've got that rhythm pattern happening there, which is another thing to help you when you're going through. We're going to look for any special, symbols. So we've got some slurs here and here. We've got accents here and here, tenuto here, here, there. And we've already talked about the shifting, so that's there. And we also just want to make sure we check the tempo up the top here. But like it's allegretto, so it's moderately fast. But if you feel like just play it. If you're doing it at home, well, you do it at whatever speed you're comfortable, really, to start. If you're doing it in an orchestra, you kind of just need to go with whatever the conductor does. If you're doing it in an exam, I would go, don't try to play allegretto if you feel like you can't. If you feel like you're going to make a lot of mistakes, go a little bit slower than you think that should be. That's my personal recommendation. Maybe not everyone agrees with that, and that's okay. And then a really, really key part is you need to make sure that you don't get stuck when you're playing this D. Where are your eyes? Are they fully, solely on this D? Or are they looking ahead to see what's coming next? And that's a skill that you need to practice, yeah? Looking ahead. And you can just think of it the same as reading a book. You want to make sure that you don't want to be saying the cat sat on the mat. I mean, that's fine when you start out, right? But to get more fluent, you want to be able to sort of look ahead and go, the cat sat on the mat. And so the same thing with reading our music. We want to get just read a little bit ahead so we can see what's coming, so we can sort of anticipate and prepare the fingers and the bow in time. And then next step is you want to just make sure you practice a little bit every day, because just like reading a book, you're going to get better by doing it regularly every day. Not one big hit all the time, but yeah, little bits every day. These 7 simple steps are going to transform your sight reading, I swear. So don't be scared of it. Just jump in, practice a little bit every day. And to help make that even easier for you, in my 7-day challenge, there is a whole section with a whole heap from beginner to intermediate practices, little 2 lines just like we saw today, to practice your sight reading. So you can grab all the information for that right down below. If you got value out of this video, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Let me know how you're going with your sight reading down in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.